Welcome to Starlight Sci-Fi, where we explore thrilling stories, uncover cosmic mysteries, and dive deep into the unknown. If you love imaginative science fiction with twists and turns, you've come to the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for a journey beyond the stars. It started as a faint signal, barely distinguishable from the cosmic noise of the universe. At first, no one believed it was real. But when humanity finally deciphered its meaning, they realized something terrifying. The message wasn't for them, and still, they answered. It began like most great discoveries do, by accident. A faint and peculiar signal was detected by a radio telescope in a remote part of the Chilean desert, part of an observatory known for scanning the cosmos for signs of extraterrestrial life. For decades, the search had yielded little more than the background hum of the universe, pulsars, quasars, and the occasional burst of gamma rays. Most scientists had long resigned themselves to the idea that the universe, vast as it was, might remain silent forever. But then came the signal. At first, it seemed like just another anomaly, a curious fluctuation in the spectrum of radio waves. It was faint, so faint that it almost blended into the noise of the universe. Only through rigorous analysis did researchers identify a repeating pattern buried within it. The discovery sent a ripple of excitement through the scientific community. Natural phenomena, no matter how complex, did not behave like this. Pulsars emitted rhythmic pulses, but those were the byproduct of spinning neutron stars. This was something else entirely. The signal originated from a distant star system over 500 light-years away. It repeated every 11.2 seconds, but with slight variations that couldn't be explained by any known natural processes. It was precise, yet dynamic, as if something or someone was deliberately broadcasting it. Within weeks, research institutions across the globe tuned their telescopes toward the source, hoping to gather more data. As the signal was analyzed, its complexity became undeniable. It carried mathematical patterns, prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, and even geometric representations encoded in its frequencies. These weren't the kind of phenomena produced by dying stars or collapsing black holes. This was the universal language of intelligence. Humanity had long speculated that if alien civilizations tried to communicate, they would use math, the one constant in an otherwise chaotic universe. Excitement soon turned to urgency. If this was a message from another civilization, what was it trying to say? And more importantly, who was it for? Over months, a team of cryptographers, mathematicians, and astrophysicists worked tirelessly to decode the signal. The process was painstaking, involving advanced algorithms and simulations, but their persistence paid off. They uncovered what appeared to be a set of instructions, a blueprint for constructing an enormous, intricate machine. The details were baffling. The design called for exotic materials barely understood by human science and technologies that seemed to defy known physics. But as they delved deeper, an unsettling realization emerged. The message wasn't written in a way that addressed humanity. It lacked any acknowledgement of Earth, our species, or anything resembling an introduction. It wasn't a greeting. It wasn't an invitation. It was a command. The implications were chilling. Humanity wasn't the intended recipient of this signal. Someone or something else had been. But humanity, ever curious and bold, decided to answer anyway, with no idea who the message was meant for, or what would happen if the machine was built. They began their audacious project. The signal had spoken, and humanity, despite knowing better, couldn't resist listening. The more humanity unraveled the message, the more it became clear this was no ordinary communication. It wasn't a friendly greeting or a call for help. It wasn't even an acknowledgement of humanity's existence. The signal, when fully decoded, turned out to be a precise set of instructions for building something extraordinary, a machine unlike anything Earth had ever conceived. The blueprint itself was astonishingly detailed. It laid out dimensions, materials, and assembly techniques with mathematical precision. Some parts were incomprehensibly advanced, involving concepts that seemed to contradict the known laws of physics. For instance, the design called for materials with negative mass, something that, in human understanding, existed only as a theoretical concept. The energy requirements were astronomical, involving antimatter reactors and quantum field manipulation. At first, the global scientific community was electrified. This was proof of alien intelligence not just in theory but in action. Whoever or whatever had sent the signal was clearly far more advanced than humanity. The machine's design hinted at technologies that could catapult Earth into an era of unprecedented progress. Could this be the breakthrough humanity had always dreamed of? But as the euphoria wore off, skepticism and unease began to creep in. Why had the signal been sent in the first place? More importantly, why now? The universe had existed for over 13 billion years, and humans had only just developed the tools to detect such a message. It seemed statistically improbable that the signal had been directed at Earth during the narrow window of time in which humanity could receive it. The most troubling question of all, however, was the message's intent. Nothing in the instructions addressed humanity specifically. There were no indications that the sender even knew humans existed. The blueprints weren't customized to Earth's capabilities or resources. They seemed designed for someone or something else entirely. The mathematical sequences, though universal, lacked the cultural flourishes one might expect in a message intended to introduce one civilization to another. As weeks turned into months, theories multiplied. Some argued the signal was a galactic test, a puzzle left behind by a long-dead civilization to challenge emerging species. Others believed it was a trap, bait set by an alien race to lure unsuspecting worlds into their control. A smaller but vocal minority suggested an even darker possibility. The message was a warning, a signal meant to remain unbuilt, its contents too dangerous for any civilization to harness. Despite the doubts, curiosity proved irresistible. Human nature, driven by an insatiable need to explore and understand, would not allow the mystery to go unsolved. The question of intent, whether benevolent, malevolent, or indifferent, was set aside in favor of action. The sheer potential of the machine outweighed the risks. Work began to reverse engineer the alien designs, even as resources were poured into debating the ethical implications. As the project gained momentum, cracks formed in the global consensus. Governments worried about who would control the technology if it succeeded. Scientists feared what would happen if they made a mistake during the construction. One unsettling realization loomed over everyone involved. The machine wasn't a human invention. They were trespassers, builders of something they didn't truly understand. It wasn't humanity's place to activate it, but they intended to anyway. The message had been sent across the void of space for someone else, but humanity had intercepted it, decoded, and now, arrogantly or desperately, claimed it for themselves. What no one dared to ask aloud was, what if the original recipient came looking? When humanity decided to act on the alien blueprint, it sparked the most ambitious engineering project in history. The machine was far too large and complex to be built on Earth's surface. Instead, construction began in orbit, where the zero-gravity environment and unlimited space allowed for the assembly of its colossal components. Over a dozen nations pooled their resources, forging an uneasy alliance in pursuit of the unknown. The sheer scale of the task was overwhelming. The blueprint required materials humanity had only recently discovered, along with others that had existed purely in theory. Advanced superconductors, exotic alloys, and antimatter production facilities had to be developed almost from scratch. Mining operations on the moon and asteroids were ramped up to extract rare elements, while scientists scrambled to synthesize materials that didn't naturally occur. The machine demanded perfection. There was no room for error in its design, as even a single deviation could lead to catastrophic failure. At the heart of the project was a structure referred to as the array. It consisted of a sprawling network of crystalline filaments, each thinner than a strand of human hair but capable of channeling immense energy. Surrounding the array was a lattice of black metal frameworks, built to withstand forces that no human scientist could fully explain. The final design spanned several kilometers in diameter, dwarfing even the International Space Station. Despite the unprecedented collaboration, tensions ran high. Governments argued over who would control the completed machine, fearing the potential imbalance of power it could create. Some worried it might become a weapon, while others hoped it would unlock new sources of energy or interstellar travel. The lack of clarity surrounding its purpose only fueled the paranoia. Was the machine meant to be a gateway? A beacon? A tool? The blueprint offered no answers. Meanwhile, skepticism persisted among scientists and engineers. The machine's design was so alien, so far beyond human understanding, that it seemed almost impossible to determine whether they were building it correctly. Every step of the process required leaps of faith and educated guesses. For all their efforts, humanity could only hope they were following the instructions as intended. As construction neared completion, the machine's appearance became a source of unease. It didn't look like anything that belonged to the realm of human creation. The array shimmered with an unnatural light, its crystalline structure seeming to refract energy in ways that defied physics. The black metal lattice was equally unsettling, absorbing light so completely that it appeared like a void floating in space. The closer they came to finishing the project, the more questions arose. Was it truly wise to activate a device they didn't understand? Some scientists pleaded for more time to study the blueprints, but the momentum of the project was unstoppable. Billions of dollars, years of work, and the combined effort of humanity's greatest minds had gone into its construction. To abandon it now would be unthinkable. Finally, after nearly a decade of work, the machine was ready. It hung in orbit like a dark, alien star, its incomprehensible design both beautiful and ominous. There was no turning back. When the switch was flipped, the array came alive with a pulse of energy that rippled through space. Instruments on Earth detected a surge in radiation, a brief disruption in the planet's magnetic field, and a cascade of gravitational waves unlike anything ever observed. The machine had powered on, but humanity was not prepared for what came next. When the machine powered on, the universe seemed to notice. The activation began with a single pulse, a burst of energy that radiated outward from the array in all directions. The pulse wasn't visible to the naked eye, but its effects were undeniable. Satellites in low Earth orbit malfunctioned, their circuits fried by a sudden surge of electromagnetic interference. Radio frequencies across the globe were disrupted, plunging communication networks into chaos. Even Earth's magnetic field rippled in response, causing compasses to spin erratically. On the ground, scientists struggled to comprehend what they were witnessing. The machine had emitted a signal, but it wasn't a simple transmission. It was something far more profound, a ripple in space-time itself, as if the fabric of reality had been momentarily disturbed. Instruments registered gravitational anomalies, quantum fluctuations, and an unprecedented distortion in the surrounding vacuum. The energy levels were staggering, far exceeding anything humanity had anticipated. And then, the pulse was gone, as suddenly as it had appeared. At first, there was silence and eerie, expectant pause. For weeks, the machine hung in orbit, humming softly with a low-frequency resonance that no one could quite explain. Scientists studied its behavior obsessively, but their instruments could only scratch the surface of its complexities. The machine was doing something, but no one could determine what. The answer came not from Earth, but from the distant star system where the original signal had been sent. Telescopes trained on the region detected an anomaly, movement. Something enormous was shifting against the black backdrop of space. At first, the movement was dismissed as a sensor error. It was too large, too impossible to comprehend. But as the data poured in, a grim picture began to emerge. A fleet of objects, colossal, angular, and unnaturally dark, was moving toward Earth. They traveled at speeds that defied the known limits of physics, seemingly unbound by the constraints of light-speed travel. Panic spread as astronomers tracked their trajectory. The fleet was unmistakably heading for the solar system, drawn like moths to a flame. Within weeks, the objects breached the outer edge of the heliosphere, their approach relentless and silent. The machines were impossibly massive, each one rivaling the size of a small moon. Their surfaces absorbed light, rendering them featureless and unnervingly black. Speculation ran wild. Were these the original recipients of the signal? Had the machine summoned them? And, most chillingly, were they allies or adversaries? The ships made no effort to communicate. They didn't respond to humanity's hails, nor did they show any signs of aggression. Instead, they moved with precision, taking up positions around the array in geostationary orbit. Their actions were coordinated, methodical, as if they had done this before. It became clear that the machine had not been humanity's to activate. The signal had summoned its rightful builders, and they had come to claim what was theirs. The aliens began interfacing with the array, their ships emitting bursts of energy that synchronized perfectly with the machine's design. Humanity could only watch, powerless, as the device they had constructed became the centerpiece of a process they couldn't understand. And then, the machine sent out a second pulse, a signal far stronger and more focused than the first. This time, the ripple wasn't just confined to Earth's vicinity. It stretched outward, across the galaxy, aimed at a location so distant it defied human comprehension. Whatever the machine had summoned, it wasn't here yet. But now, it was on its way. The alien fleet hung in Earth's orbit like an ominous constellation, their massive black ships arranged in precise formation around the machine. Despite their intimidating presence, the ships made no hostile moves. No energy weapons charged, no fighters deployed. They simply floated in eerie silence, radiating a sense of ancient purpose. Their design was both awe-inspiring and unsettling. The surfaces of the ships seemed to absorb every photon of light, making them appear as voids in space, darker than the vacuum surrounding them. Occasionally, faint pulses of energy flickered across their hulls, almost like veins carrying some unknowable current. They were alive in a way humanity couldn't quite understand, and that alone was enough to send chills through every observer on Earth. The scientific community scrambled to interpret the situation, but their tools and theories were woefully inadequate. The aliens had ignored every attempt at communication, responding neither to messages of peace nor to warnings of defense. Humanity's most advanced telescopes and scanners could barely penetrate the surface of their ships, which seemed to be shielded by fields that warped electromagnetic waves. Speculation ran wild. Were the aliens here to destroy Earth, to harvest its resources? Or had humanity inadvertently summoned ancient caretakers of the machine? None of these questions had answers, and fear spread as people realized how powerless they were against the forces now orbiting their planet. Then, the aliens began their work. The ships moved in perfect synchronization, positioning themselves around the array in a way that suggested familiarity with its design. Beams of energy, precise and controlled, emanated from the ships, targeting specific points on the machine. The crystalline structure of the array responded immediately, glowing with a pulsating light that refracted in impossible ways. It was as if the machine had been waiting for this exact interaction. As the process continued, strange phenomena began to manifest on Earth. The sky over major cities flickered with faint auroras, though there were no geomagnetic storms to account for them. Seismographs detected subtle vibrations deep within the planet, even in regions far from tectonic fault lines. Radio signals were distorted, bending and warping as if space itself was being reshaped. The most unsettling phenomenon occurred in the skies. At random intervals, observers reported seeing flashes of light that resembled brief, ghostly outlines of colossal structures, buildings, towers, or something more alien hovering momentarily before vanishing. The implications were deeply troubling. Was the machine altering reality, or were these glimpses of another dimension? Despite the global panic, humanity's leaders held back from attacking the alien fleet. It was clear that any act of aggression would be futile. Earth's most advanced weapons would likely have no effect on these visitors, and provoking them could bring about immediate annihilation. Instead, humanity could only watch as the aliens worked, seemingly indifferent to their audience. After several days, the machine emitted another pulse, far stronger and more focused than before. The energy it released caused disruptions across the planet. Power grids failed, electronics shorted out, and satellites were knocked offline. In the aftermath, astronomers detected something extraordinary, The pulse had created a gravitational wave so massive that it could be traced across the galaxy. The machine had sent a message, not to Earth, but to something far beyond human comprehension. The signal's destination was an unknown point deep in intergalactic space, billions of light-years away, far beyond even the reach of the alien fleet. Then, as suddenly as they had arrived, the aliens completed their task. The machine quieted, its crystalline glow fading to a steady hum. The ships lingered for a brief moment, their massive forms still and silent. And then, without warning, they began to depart. One by one, the ships disappeared into the blackness of space, leaving no trace of their presence except the machine they had activated. Humanity had expected an attack, an invasion, or at least an explanation. Instead, the aliens had come, done their work, and left as though Earth were nothing more than a waypoint in a much larger plan. But their departure offered no relief. Whatever the machine had signaled, it wasn't over. Something far greater was on its way, and humanity had no idea what to expect. The silence that followed was more terrifying than the fleet itself. The machine had done its job. Now the universe was waiting. The days after the alien fleet's departure were eerily calm, but the sense of dread was overwhelming. Humanity had been left alone with the machine, a silent monolith orbiting above Earth, humming faintly as if alive. Its crystalline array no longer glowed, but faint pulses of energy still radiated from it, rippling outward into space. The machine had sent its signal to the stars, and now it waited. On Earth, the mood was tense. Scientists worked tirelessly to understand the machine's purpose, but its alien design defied their efforts. Every instrument they used provided incomplete data, as though the machine existed on a level of complexity beyond human comprehension. Physicists theorized that the device manipulated dimensions outside the three humans could perceive, but these theories were as unsettling as they were speculative. Worse, the phenomena on Earth had not stopped. The skies continued to flicker with ghostly auroras, their colors alien and unnatural. At night, faint pattern spirals, grids, and fractals appeared in the stars, as though the universe itself was shifting. Sensitive instruments detected gravitational anomalies across the planet, causing strange tidal patterns and subtle distortions in time itself. Clocks in some regions began to desynchronize, their precision slipping by milliseconds each day. And then came the visions. At first they were dismissed as hallucinations or mass hysteria. People across the globe reported seeing strange images when they closed their eyes, brief, vivid flashes of alien landscapes, towering structures, and skies filled with unfamiliar constellations. The visions were inconsistent but unmistakably connected. A common thread ran through them, a sense of immense scale and otherworldly grandeur. As the reports increased, it became clear that these were not isolated incidents. The visions were affecting people seemingly at random: scientists, farmers, politicians, children. There was no discernible pattern. Psychological evaluations found no signs of mental illness in those who experienced them. Instead, the affected individuals described an overwhelming feeling of being observed, as if the visions were not their own but had been placed in their minds by something else. It didn't take long for scientists to connect the phenomena to the machine. Analysis of the residual energy from the array revealed patterns similar to those found in human neural activity. It was as if the machine was broadcasting something, waves of information that somehow resonated with the human brain. But why? Was it attempting to communicate, or was this an unintended side effect of its activation? The most chilling theory emerged from a small team of quantum physicists who analyzed the machine's gravitational output. They concluded that the device wasn't just signaling outward, it was altering the very fabric of space-time around Earth. The gravitational distortions weren't random, they were deliberate. The machine was creating a beacon not just visible across the galaxy, but accessible. It was reshaping reality to prepare for something to arrive. If the machine had summoned the alien fleet as builders, then the next arrival would be something far greater, its true recipient. The visions, the anomalies, and the gravitational shifts were all signs of preparation, a reconfiguration of the universe in anticipation of what was to come. Some scientists tried to warn the world, but their warnings were drowned out by fear and confusion. Governments scrambled to prepare defenses, but against what? No one knew what form the arrival would take. Would it be a ship, a species, or something more abstract, something beyond the limits of human understanding? And then, one night, the sky changed. Across the globe, people looked up to see a colossal object materialize in the heavens. It wasn't a ship in the conventional sense. It was a structure of vast, angular form that shimmered with the same unnatural light as the machine. It dwarfed the alien fleet that had come before, stretching across the sky like a second moon. Humanity had activated the machine, answered the signal, and drawn the attention of something immense. Whatever this was, it wasn't here to negotiate. It wasn't here to explain. It was here to claim what had been called. The object hung in the sky, vast and incomprehensible. Its sheer size was impossible to process. It wasn't just visible in the night sky, it dominated it, stretching across continents in a way that defied geometry. It seemed less like a solid structure and more like a piece of the cosmos itself, carved from the void and placed unnervingly close to Earth. It glowed faintly with an unnatural energy, its edges shifting as though it existed in multiple dimensions at once. Humanity froze in collective awe and terror. The object didn't behave like anything natural or mechanical. It didn't orbit the Earth or move through space, it simply was. Its presence felt inevitable, as though it had always been there, waiting for humanity to activate the machine and open the door. On Earth, chaos erupted. Some people fell to their knees, convinced they were witnessing divine judgment. Others sought shelter, though there was no place to hide from something that vast. Governments activated every defense system they had, but no missiles were launched, no lasers fired. The sheer scale of the object made retaliation seem futile, like throwing pebbles at a mountain. Scientists scrambled to interpret the object's nature, but their instruments were overwhelmed. Telescopes, satellites, and sensors registered nothing comprehensible. Light bent unnaturally around the object, and its energy output spiked beyond measurable limits. It emitted no traditional signals, no radio waves, no comprehensible form of communication. And yet, it spoke, just not in a way humans could understand. The visions intensified. Across the globe, people began experiencing them more frequently, and they grew more vivid, more intrusive. The landscapes in these visions were no longer brief glimpses, they became prolonged experiences. Towering structures of alien design, endless plains under alien skies, and beings of incomprehensible form filled their minds. These weren't dreams or hallucinations, they felt real, as though humanity was being forced to experience another reality entirely. And then, the machine activated again. The crystalline array, dormant since the alien fleet's departure, flared to life with an intensity that lit up the Earth's orbit. It emitted a pulse of energy unlike any before, stronger, sharper, and more focused. The pulse didn't ripple outward into the galaxy this time, it traveled directly to the object in the sky. The response was immediate. The object reacted as though awakened, its shimmering form pulsing in resonance with the machine. Beams of energy impossibly vast and otherworldly descended from it, enveloping the machine. The array's crystalline structure fractured under the intensity, but it didn't shatter. Instead, it transformed. The fragments rearranged themselves, forming a new structure that no longer resembled the original design. On Earth, the effects were devastating. Gravitational forces shifted violently, causing earthquakes and tidal waves. The skies darkened, and a strange pressure descended, as though the atmosphere itself was being rewritten. And then humanity heard a sound that wasn't a sound at all. It was a presence, a knowing, a message delivered directly into the fabric of human thought. It wasn't words nor images, but a concept submission. The object had come to claim the machine, and by extension, the world that had activated it. Humanity had called out to the cosmos, and something ancient and incomprehensible had answered. The machine wasn't a tool, nor a gift, it was a lure, a device meant to prepare a world for assimilation into something far greater. The vision bearers became humanity's only link to understanding. They spoke of a collective, a vast network of civilizations and realities consumed by the entity now in orbit. It wasn't malevolent in the way humans understood malice, nor benevolent in the way they understood kindness. It was simply inevitable. The machine had marked Earth as the next piece of a puzzle far older and larger than humanity itself. As the machine completed its transformation, the skies lit up with a final pulse of energy. The object in orbit began to shift, its form becoming less distinct, less tethered to physical space. Slowly, it began to draw the machine and Earth itself into its grasp. Humanity had reached out to the stars, and in their arrogance, they had awakened something that couldn't be reasoned with, something that didn't care about their survival or destruction. It had come to claim what was rightfully its own, and Earth's cries would echo unheard in the vast, indifferent cosmos. The signal had never been for humans, but they had answered anyway, and now their world would never be the same. Thanks for watching Starlight Sci-Fi. If you enjoyed this thrilling tale of cosmic suspense, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you think might have been on the other side of that signal. Until next time, keep looking up and wondering what's out there.